Hey there. Good morning. Winifred here, Magickal Maven of AwenTree, the magical hub for the seeker with a brick and mortar shop located in Western Mass in the town of East Hampton on Cottage Street. And I like to jump on these conversations to offer up some inspiration to help empower your life, your healing, and transformation. And then this coming few days, I've been offering a free 5-day mini series via live stream in which I'm digging into the topic of connecting to your inner witch, connecting to your inner magic, and hitting on some key topics that I think can really help empower your journey, give you permission to step into your magical life, and hopefully give you some inspiration and some hands-on practical tips to help you grow in your spiritual practice. So my name's Winifred. As I said, I'm the magical maven and owner of AwenTree. I'm also the facilitator and founder of an online magical community called The Witching Well, and where we do all kinds of this work in a much deeper way on a monthly ongoing basis. And I just really like to share stuff that I think helps other people. So I've always been inspired by the wonderful mentors in my life. So I really see this as paying forward some of the goodness that I've received from them. I like to then bring my light and shine some energy into the world and be a positive force. I like to bring positive things to the table because you just never know in that one moment you get that big breakthrough, and it really, and from there on out, everything else in your life changes. So this is a 5-part series. There is a complimentary workbook that you can go and download, and it goes with this series. So you can take notes. Each of the episodes have been recorded. So this is episode 3. You can go back and check the replays in the live stream, or you can, I will eventually put the whole series up on YouTube. So anyway, so let me get right into the topic. If you are here live, give me a shout out. Let me know if you have a question. Put it in the chat room. And I will, if I don't answer it in the live stream, I'll go back in and answer it in the comments later. I do check. And if you're joining me live, that's awesome. Thank you. And if you're catching this on the replay, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talk about stuff I'm passionate about. So, all right, so let's get right into it. My name's Winifred, and I have been practicing earth-centered spiritual tradition since I was a teenager. And so today we're going to be talking about showing up and actually committing, showing up, and being what I call a witch in action, like actually doing the practice and why that matters. So when it comes to earth-centered spiritual traditions, whether you identify as a witch or a pagan, a Wiccan, there's, I'm not that's a whole other conversation. I talked about that in the first live stream about the different terminology, the different words that people are claiming and using to identify the particular current, like river. Think of it as the different rivers of earth-centered spiritual traditions, because there are many ways to do this practice. There's no one way to do this. So for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to usually reference witch and magic, just for simplicity's sake, although I understand that not everyone who practices an earth-centered spiritual tradition is a witch. But just to keep it simple for our conversation today, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, I'll pretty much be using the word witch or pagan or magic, something like that. So one of the most important things in these kinds of practices is showing up. So we don't have one governing body. We don't have one church to go to. There isn't unless you are in a tradition where there are some folks taking like a clergy type position, like whether you maybe are familiar with terms like high priestess or high priest, or priestess. Like if you have someone that is forming that role, then you might have some more guidance and someone encouraging and offering accountability for you to show up. But most folks are solitary, practicing an eclectic tradition, and by and large on their own. And so there isn't like every Sunday you got to show up. So there isn't that sort of external energy like saying, hey, it's time to get practice, make time, what's on your agenda, what matters to you spiritually for your spiritual development or your healing or your growth or your education. There isn't that. Usually there's not an external governing force to say anything to you. So these are very much direct encounter spiritual traditions. They're about your own spiritual agency, like your spiritual independence. And so it's on you to show up. It's on you to commit. It's on you to show up, and it's on you to choose to be in action around your spiritual practice. So that while that's very exciting that's why most witches are drawn to this work and why that is very powerful and why we do what we do. At the same time, the big drawback to that is that there isn't unless you've got a grove or a circle or a coven, who's going to be that person for you? Who's going to be your witchy accountability buddy that's going to say, hey, you wanted to work on that spell. Have you put more time into it? Have you thought about it? Did you figure out what you need to do? Did you figure out the timing? When are you going to do it? Or maybe you've done all those things. How did it go? What did you discover? Did you feel like it worked? Did it not work? Like who's going to help you unpack it afterwards? So, like I said, the awesome thing about these traditions is that they do allow us to author our own experience and to be independent and to claim our spiritual agency and to develop a spiritual practice that really speaks to us and is relevant to our lives and our values. That's all the amazing awesomeness about practicing these traditions. But then, like I said, on the flip side, the drawback is who's your witchy accountability buddy? If you don't have like not everyone's in a coven or a grove or a circle or has like-minded kindred friends to be that role for them. So how are you committing and showing up? Why does it even matter? Well, like I've been saying all through this conversation today, is your magic doesn't happen unless you make it happen. Your practice doesn't happen unless you make it happen. And also, these practices are really everyday living traditions. They're practices. It's no accident that witchcraft is called a craft. Sometimes you hear it called the craft because it's a sacred art form. It's a craft. It's a practice. It's a way of being. It's a way of living every day. It's a way of infusing your life in every minute and every moment. Like it's a way of being in the world and how you perceive the world and move through the world and interact with the world. So that means you have to show up and live it and do it, and you have to breathe life into it. Because without you fueling it or energizing it, it's not going to happen. And I see so many talented and wonderful, amazing, gifted people, and they struggle to find the time or prioritize it, or because there isn't, as you can see, I have a cat that loves to show up. I just have to comment about Maya, the cat. So Maya has to come and participate in every live stream, online class, any kind of recording I'm doing. So she's made her appearance now. Hopefully this is her tail will not be in the middle of the video the whole time. But that's just her thing. It's what she likes to do. So it's, if you don't practice and get into action on your magic and your spiritual practice, like it's just gonna sit in some dusty corner, like not having a lot of energy around it. And the more you can commit and show up and be invested in your spiritual practice, the more you're going to see results, the more personal transformation and growth you're going to experience. And the more you're going to affect positive change in your life and feel empowered. And also the more comfortable and confident you're going to feel around your skill sets, because these traditions and practices do have skills to them, and you're going to feel more comfortable and confident with them if you are actually interacting with yourself and your spiritual practice and your spiritual tools on a regular basis. So this all sounds really great, and you're probably like, well, how do I make that happen? Because we have busy lives, and one of the things I've discovered is that there's never going to be the right time. There's never going to be the perfect time. If you're telling yourself a story, well, after I get all this done, then I'll do that. Or next month, it'll be better. On that next full moon, I promise I'll do that thing. You have to claim it. The reality is that there is no perfect time. There's never, if you tell yourself the story that you don't have enough time or energy for your spiritual practice, which honestly, spiritual practice equates self-care. If you are telling yourself a story that next month, next week, tomorrow, 5 minutes from now, it's never going to be perfect. You create and make the perfect time by choosing. So you choose to make now the perfect moment. You choose to put it in your everyday. You choose to make the time. You choose to commit. You choose to show up. That's what that's what spiritual integrity, spiritual agency is about. And when you choose that and claim that, that's when your life does this wonderful magical thing, and the chi, like the energy flow in your life, moves and changes, and you have time. So I always share this story because I think that this is helpful for people. So I, for most of my life, was a single mom. I had worked a full time career, and this is before I had AwenTree, and even after I had AwenTree, I was still a single mom, and I was working at AwenTree. And when the economy crashed, I had to also take on a part time job just to get through that economic downturn in like 2009 that happened. Um, because I've had the store for since before that dip in our economy. So I've had the store for 13 years, and so I had to be very resourceful, and I had to really work a lot of hours. And I was a mom; I had to be there for my child and take care of her and get her to school and all those kinds of mom things. And those things are important. To we have to do those things in our lives. They give value and meaning in other ways. But I didn't like I needed to make sure I had time for my spiritual practice because it keeps me grounded and centered, feeling aligned in my life. It's how I stay calm. It allows me to feel like I'm on track for my always taking that time for myself and for what I'm seeking to manifest and create in my life. It helps me be aware of what I'm manifesting and what I'm creating, so that I'm captaining my. You want to be the captain of your own ship. And so in order to be the captain of your own ship, you gotta be in charge of your magic. To be in charge of your magic, you gotta make time for your spiritual practice. That's just the way it is. I gotta be honest with you, it's not gonna work if you don't find 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So here's my big secret tip. Um, that's how I decided. I looked around at my life and I said to myself, wow, there's really very little room. I often didn't have time to go buy a bunch of fancy supplies. I didn't have time to set up a big, long, involved ritual, even though I love big, long, involved rituals. I didn't really, there was a point in my life where that really didn't fit. Lots of points, especially like when my children were smaller. So I had to get resourceful with my magic. And I really wanted an everyday spiritual practice because when I did stuff every day, I really saw tremendous things happen for the positive in my life. So I knew that I knew I was on to something with that. So I decided I committed. I said to myself, I am going to do my spiritual practice every day and I'm not taking it off the plate. Like no matter how much life demands or gets loud or rings a bell at me, I am claiming this. It's sacred ground and it comes first, just like it's because it's part of my self-care. And nothing, like I created like this, container and like it's sacred ground inside. Nothing gets to push it out of the way, come before it, or take up its spot. And so the second thought, besides committing and declaring that, the second part was to find something that was maintainable. So a lot of times, well, like the bigger, longer rituals are really beautiful. They are beautiful and profound things happen in them. They can sometimes be like luxury magic. We might not have the space, we might not have the time or the room or the resources, the energy, because lots of reasons why that might be, for such a luxurious ritual, like a big fancy ritual with all of the like fancy candles and special tools and a big fancy beautiful space, special clothing. Like you might not, there's many reasons why you might not be able to do that. But that doesn't mean you can't be doing effective real magic every day. And so one of the things I discovered about how to get your magic to fit in your life is to make it really like simplify it, which allows you to amplify it and cut to the bones, like cut to the bones of your magic. Not that, like I said, I'm not pooping on bigger, more involved luxury magic or luxury rituals. Those long, slow, luxurious, expansive rituals full of all those wonderful items and extra magical juju, those are delicious. And there's definitely time for those. But I don't know about you, but I don't have time to do them. Those are special times. I don't get to do those. I can't do those every day. It's not maintainable in my life at this point. But simple, amplified, basic, like basic doesn't mean not potent or powerful. Basic means the bare, like raw. Think of raw food. It's like raw magic. Think of like raw food ingredients. It's like the fundamentals. So as long as the fundamentals are there, um, it's real, and you can find a way to make it more maintainable in your everyday life. So that was my second step. So my first step was to commit. I'm going to do this. This is part of my self-care. It's not coming off the list. Like I have certain things to maintain my sanity and my magical practice, along with health and fitness. They don't come off the table. When something's got to give, that's not what gives. We're not talking about emergencies. We're talking about like everyday living. So in order for my personal self-care and magic to fit into every day, it had to be quick, easy, real, and maintainable. So I made that decision. I then looked in my life and I said to myself, what do I do every day? Like where? There are 5 minutes. You can find 5 minutes. I found 5 minutes. Anyone, if you know me really well, you know that my life is extremely full. And I found 5 minutes. So I pretty much feel if I can find 5 minutes, probably everybody else out there could. And if you don't know my personal story, you might not know how for real I am around that. But anyone who knows me really, really well knows how extremely busy I am. So I found 5 minutes. I looked at my life and I said to myself, what do I do every day? What do I never skip? What do I never skip? Well, I always get dressed. I don't know about you, but I always get dressed before I leave the house. I always brush my teeth. So I don't know about you, but I always brush my teeth before I leave the house. That's 5 minutes. Getting dressed is what, 15, 20 minutes, maybe longer on some days. And I always have coffee. So I'm a big coffee drinker. It's my favorite beverage. It's a real process for my husband and I. We hand grind our beans. Yes, we have a little modern hand grinder. We buy fancy organic coffee beans. We hand grind them and we use a French press. So coffee for me is a whole ritual in itself, and it takes 15 minutes to prepare coffee like that. So here were some things that are always in my day. I'm always going to get dressed. I'm always going to be brushing my teeth. I set intentions. I do a lot of get a lot of spiritual downloads and check-ins when I brush my teeth. It's strange, but that's where it is for me. And I have a coffee ritual. And now I have a morning spiritual practice, but I'm getting to that part. But those things were already in my life. So I said to myself, like short of a serious crisis, I don't skip any of those. Like I don't run out of the house undressed. I don't skip brushing my teeth, and I certainly don't leave without have my cup of coffee. It would be a very unusual day where I had to buy coffee like out at a cafe or something. So I thought to myself, this is where my spiritual practice is going to go with my coffee ritual, because coffee was sacred to me. I never skipped it. Now, sometimes my daughters sit, and I had at this point, my daughter was like a teenager, so she was older. Might she sit and be having coffee with me? Absolutely. But she was raised in a pagan household. So she would be okay with me taking 5 minutes in that for my spiritual time. Or you can go take your coffee and drink it, or your tea and drink it, or your hot water with lemon, whatever your morning process is. You can go and drink that away from your family for a few minutes on your own. But in my life, it was coffee and my ritual around coffee. So what I did was I took my magical altar, which I had at that point in a spare room, which was very beautiful. And I still have, we call it the goddess room. I still have like a room set up for spiritual and for like a temple space. But this is going to sound strange, but in order to practice your magic every day, you need to remove the obstacles that are getting in your way. And you have to take an honest look at your life and figure out what gets in your way. And you have to do your best to your ability, like to remove those obstacles. Now, obviously your kids might get in the way. You're not going to get rid of your kids. But maybe they can be integrated. Maybe they can be woven in. Maybe you can take 5 minutes away, like give them an activity, and you go do something for 5 minutes real quick. But for me, one of my obstacles was that the ritual room is upstairs in a different place in the house. And in my morning that was busy trying to get out the door and take care of the things that need to be taken care of before I got the door, for some reason that was a huge obstacle. I wasn't going to go back upstairs to this other room and take 5 minutes there. But I did sit at my kitchen table and drink my coffee, and I did take the time, and I would often journal in that time period. So I was like, oh, this is it. It's going to fit in my coffee routine and in my journaling practice. In my I had a brief I would drink coffee, meditate, journal for a few minutes in the morning. So I was like, this is where I'll put the magical practice. This is where I can find 5 minutes. So I moved my altar downstairs, like not like I have some different kinds of altars, but one just my everyday magical working altar. I have an altar for a primary spiritual ally. I moved that altar out of that spare room and right down into the living room, and I parked it right next to the dining room table, and that's where it lives. And so then when I sat down for my coffee, I poured a coffee and water offering for my primary spiritual ally, which is integrated with my magical working altar. And then I poured my coffee and water, and then I sat together with my spiritual ally and my magical altar, and shared my morning coffee with my altar and my spirit guides and allies and powers that be and those energies, and just sat like with my altar as part of my morning routine. It just became part of my dining room, part of my morning routine. And I pour coffee and water every morning. And the fact that, and just in little demi-tasse cups, like those little espresso coffee cups, those tiny ones, they would get some water, cool water, and fresh coffee, black coffee, and then I would fix my own coffee, and then I would sit, and I might just be silent. I might be praying. I might be having a conversation. I might write in my journal. I might just, be quiet and see what I receive, or put a question out, or just visit. So that's how I found a way. Like, this is very simple. It was a simple offering. It was basically making time for meditation, communion, and check-in, and conversation. But it only takes a few minutes, and I was able to put it into my everyday routine. And the first few days, the first few weeks of it, it was like, oh, got to remember to do this, have my cups all ready to go. I would wash them the night before and have them all nice and clean and ready to go. So I could put the water and the coffee in, and everything was like right there. And because I didn't have to even go to a different room, I was all like very accessible. I could still be available to my daughter if she had a question. Or my life, or the dog or the cat, it just fit in. And it was the most powerful and profound thing I ever did. It sounds really simple, but it was the number one thing that created the most powerful shifts and changes in my life. And my whole spiritual practice and my spiritual relationship with myself, with the greater world around me, like blew open in this very, very, very powerful way, because I committed. I chose something that was very maintainable. I picked the most core important elements, like communing, connecting, and offerings, and being present and showing up. And I did it, and I committed to it. And before I knew it, it was this part. It just fit. As soon, like at first, it was like, oh, I gotta remember this. Gotta remember to do this. Gotta remember to do this. But then turned into weeks, and then weeks turned into months, and then I was soon looking back, going like, oh, it just fits. Like, there was no more like, I gotta do this. Like, there might be this odd morning where something comes up, and I might just make the offerings and go, and not really be able to sit there. But that doesn't happen that often anymore. I saw this incredible thing, which that my life's chi, the flow, had shifted to accommodate that. Just like it shifted, like I said, my life already accommodates me brushing my teeth, getting dressed, and making coffee. It just accommodated this one other flow energy there. So anyway, I wanted to share that story because I think that it can really help illuminate, or maybe give you an inspiration or idea about how you can look around in your life and create something that's manageable and maintainable, and so you can bring everyday magic, so you can bring your spiritual practice to your life, to empower you to commit and show up, and be fully present. Because when you do that, like, amazing things happen in your life. So anyway, thanks for listening to me this morning. It's Friday morning. I hope you're having a great day. My name's Winifred. I'm the Magickal Maven of AwenTree, which is a brick and mortar shop located in East Hampton, Massachusetts. If you're in Western Mass, definitely come in, introduce yourself, say hi. We love to meet folks that come to visit the store. I am also the founder and facilitator of an online magical community called The Witching Well, which is this amazing online community space, for witches and pagans and Wiccans and earth-centered spiritual practitioners. And we are about to open the doors for new members. It is like a sacred space where it's closed, and we only open the doors with intention a few times a year. So we're about to open the doors again, and I'm not sure when we'll open them next, but you can check out more information about how you could work with me in a deeper way to help empower your spiritual practice and empower you to be a witch in action. I will put information about the witching well in the comments. There's also a complimentary workbook that goes with this series, and there are 3 more episodes in the series. So I'm not around tomorrow. I'm doing stuff for my own spiritual practice on Saturday, but the next episode will be Sunday night, and then there'll be another one on Monday afternoon. So you can go grab the complimentary workbook, which will bring you to a link with the schedule of when all the live episodes are happening. They're also getting recorded, so if you listen to this on the replay, I appreciate that. So you can get more information on the witching well at awentree.com/witching well, WITCHING well, WELL. I'll put that link in the comment. You can get your free workbook at awentree.com/witchy freebie, WITCHY freebie, FREEBIE. So I'll put both those links in the comment. If you have a question, give me a shout out. If you've taken the time to listen to me, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a very magical and awesome and empowered day. Take care.